Hi Rizwan, let's take a look at this new essay set that you've sent us. The first one is about, let's see, pollution, and the other one is the European cars. Okay, fine. Oops, what happened here? All right, well, it doesn't matter. I can still figure it out. Let's see. We don't call it a bar graph. We call it a bar chart, okay? So that's the first thing. The bar chart illustrates, you don't want to say below because usually it's actually above and your answer is written underneath. So don't get into that habit. Just say the bar chart illustrates the sales of 3 different brands of cars in 9 European countries in 2018. Overall, the sales are maximum is a strange word here because maximum implies that the number cannot go any higher. Okay, but that's actually not the case. What you could have just said here instead is the highest. So overall, sales are the highest in Hungary, followed by France, and the least in Belgium, followed by Italy. Okay, fine. The total number of cars sold in Hungary were about 400. Careful, it's thousands. So right away, your first piece of data is inaccurate. Really be careful with that, okay? Because that's going to absolutely cost you. Okay. So we're about 400,000 with Audi, BMW, and Ford in almost equal proportions. Careful with your spelling. In France, remember that all of these should be capitalized. Audi, BMW, Ford, France, the countries need to be capitalized. So in France, the total number of cars sold were around 300,000, with BMW cars sold being slightly more than Audi and Ford. The total number of cars sold in Belgium were about 100,000 units in 2018, which is about 1/4 the number of cars sold in Hungary. The Ford cars were the most popular cars in Belgium. In Italy, BMW is the major brand with approximately 90,000 units sold in 2018, and Ford and Audi account, without the S, for only about 10% each of the vehicle market. Okay, the number of cars sold in UK, Germany, Ireland, Holland, and Poland, 1L only, are between 200 and 300 units. Ford, without the, is the most popular car brand in UK, and Holland followed. What does that mean? And Holland followed by BMW and Audi, respectively. That doesn't make sense. Oh, I see now what you mean here. Okay, so it's missing commas. That's the problem. Ford is the most popular car brand in UK and Holland, comma, followed by BMW and Audi, comma, respectively. Whereas people in Germany and Poland are attracted to BMW. No, that you can't do that. Whereas needs to have 2 clauses, okay? So you probably needed to connect it to the previous sentence. So comma and then lowercase. Whereas people in Germany and Poland are attracted to BMW and Audi more than Ford cars. In Ireland, too, BMW is the most popular car brand among 3 brands. Okay. So let me tell you what my issue with this is. Now, first of all, the good news is that you included all the countries. I didn't check, but I am about 95% sure that you included all the countries, and that's important because that means that you've at least included the key data. You have an overview, so that's also good. So let's now talk about where this task 1 comes into problems. The first problem is the inaccuracy of your data. That's going to cost you, all right? So all you have to do is look at the band descriptors for task 1 and you'll see what happens when your data is inaccurate. That's the first problem. The second problem is I didn't really understand your organization. It really felt to me all over the place. So my understanding here is that you started with Hungary, and I think you talked about, here it is, France, right, which were the 2 top sellers, and you talked about Belgium and Italy, which were let's see, where did you talk about? Okay. Then you also talked about Italy. So you gave me essentially the highs and lows here, okay? I just felt like this was a little bit of a strange way to do this because even though you talked about these countries in your overview, I think it was really important to say that, again, that Hungary had the highest sales. Let's see, and then just highlight again that Belgium had the least sales. And then I felt like you just kind of picked and chose some of your information, but like I said, I didn't really understand the logic behind it. Let's see. And then in the next paragraph, obviously you were just kind of throwing in the rest of the countries and the information there. But I can't really say I'm super thrilled with how much data and how much information you gave here. Like, for example, I don't think you really gave a lot of information about the individual car companies for these 5 countries. So let me tell you one of the ways that I have seen this task 1 done that I really like. I think it's very effective. Well, obviously we can't see the whole thing here, but that's okay. Basically, you spend your first body paragraph talking about those totals, okay? By the way, here is where it says in the thousands, okay? So I would have spent 1 paragraph talking about the totals. So much like you did, I would have highlighted Hungary and France, okay? And then like what you did, Belgium and Italy, and say what those figures were. And then I would have said that the remaining countries were all like between 200 and 280,000 or something like that. So it doesn't have to be a super long paragraph. Then in the next paragraph, I would have talked about the actual individual car sales, doing something very similar. So I would have started with BMW and say where the figures for BMW were. Okay. And then, you know, again, just a general range. You could say that Ford was also very popular with figures ranging from, you know, X in Italy to, I don't know, Y in the UK, for example. Okay, so doing that kind of thing, but giving ranges, giving a general idea of where these numbers are would have been helpful. So that's kind of how I would have organized this. Of course, you know, there's not just one way to do task 1. But I think that's a way that really makes it very clear and easy to read. All right, so let's look at your task 2 with this pollution essay. We don't say the pollution, we just say pollution in general. So pollution is one of the most important problems that we are facing globally in this modern world. Over the last few years, a lot of environmental activists have expressed their concern on the rise of pollution levels and have demanded immediate actions to reduce and curb this issue. In this essay, your comment needs to go directly after the why. I would list, not I would, I will list. It's not theoretically that you would do this if you were asked, but it's I will list the causes for worsening pollution in major cities and suggest solutions for reducing the same. Also, careful with this word list. A list is exactly the opposite of what I want to see in this essay. I want to see fully developed paragraphs. If you end up listing the causes for pollution, that is not going to fare well in terms of your task achievement. So I will explore the causes, or I will describe the causes. That would be better. The major reasons for the rising levels of pollution in large cities are increasing air pollution from exhaust fumes of vehicles and increased destruction of plants and trees for construction of buildings. All right, I would have preferred a different word here, not increasing and increased. As major cities provide, no S, better facilities and good standard of living, because it's cities, they are experiencing a population explosion. Because of this, cities are experiencing severe congestion due to proportional growth in vehicles and buildings, leading to poor air quality and destruction of the environment. Okay, I think you could have said a little bit more about this. I think it's a good start, but I think there should have been a little more extension. Okay, so I would have liked a statistic about the number of cars in urban centers around the world and how those numbers have increased. Maybe you could have said a little bit more about how there is constant construction going on in all the major cities of the world due to the population explosion. We just needed a little more extension about both of your ideas. Okay? I'm not a huge fan of because at the beginning of a sentence. It's not considered standard, so I would be careful about that. Let's see. To control the air pollution crisis, it is important to control. Do you have to use control twice? It is important to limit the number of vehicles on the road. Hence, remember the comma goes right after that E. The government should develop an effective public transport system which is easily accessible and covers the entire city. Also, they should raise the road taxes of private vehicles, comma, thereby promoting public transport. This idea can decrease the traffic congestion, singular, and thereby air pollution. Thereby. Please be careful with this kind of thing. It gets repetitive. Even though one time it looks very nice and it's impressive, when you start using it too many times, especially in the same paragraph, then it loses its effect. This idea can decrease the traffic congestions and thereby air pollution. Okay, this is a well-known idea, not an, but a well-known idea, followed by Singapore government to control air pollution. Okay, and what were the results of this? What were the effects? What happened when Singapore did this? Could you tell me that perhaps they reduced pollution, in one of the major cities by 30%, something? All right, a little more illustration. Also, government, okay, you have a second reason, all right. Also, government should pass strict rules against destruction of parks, farmland, and small forest lands inside the cities for the purpose of construction of tall buildings because, no comma there, these green lands help to absorb harmful gases and thus reduce pollution. Okay, in conclusion, although modern cities face, without this S, various problems like air pollution due to increased cars and destruction of land for building purposes, these problems are not insurmountable. In my view, it is a responsibility of the government to tackle these issues by considering some of the solutions proposed. All right, that's very nice. I like your conclusion. You finished it with a nice, strong finish. Insurmountable was nice. Tackling these issues was nice. So that's some nice language, and it's important to leave a good impression at the end. So yeah, be careful with some of this repetition in your vocabulary. Also, I'm not really a huge fan of the fact that you had 3 body paragraphs, because what you really did is you had 1 paragraph for the problems, then you had 2 paragraphs for the solutions. You probably should have connected these into 1 paragraph, okay? And then maybe you could have developed the previous paragraph a little more so that they're more equal in length. All right, those are some of my suggestions for this particular essay. Like I said, I did like some of the vocabulary, but some of it was repetitive. And the structure was fine. You did some support of your ideas, but it needed a little more, as I already mentioned. So go ahead now and correct these essays, and let's meet back here with your next set. Looking forward to it. Good luck.